Melissa, welcome to the channel. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Just pleased to be here chatting with yourself, chatting all things Mortuary Assistant and Rebecca Owens.
How exciting. I love talking about Mortuary Assistant.
I'll tell you what, if it's one thing, I played that game in the dark and it made me jump so much. I screamed and my husband came running up the stairs. So
Yes, mission accomplished. Fantastic. I love that. I love seeing all the videos too of the good jump scares. They're my favorite.
especially when the men scream, that's the funniest one.
Yes.
Fantastic stuff. Okay, cool. So our first section is performance and character. So what drew you to the role of Rebecca in the Mortuary Assistant?
Oh my gosh. So this was back, I want to say it was 2021, I believe, when we started working on this. I at the time I had just started voice acting. I was a baby voice actor. And I just thought, I had been doing audiobooks for a while, and I really wanted to get away from that because that's very difficult. I was like, I love video games, I love horror. Let's just connect with some developers. And I came across what Brian was doing, and we just connected. As soon as I saw what he was working on, it reminded me of a few of the horror movies that I love, and some of the horror games that I grew up playing, and I was like, please count me in on this. So, yeah, it was really just a perfect, right place at the right time. And then at a time in my career where I was still trying to figure out what exactly am I even going to do in a video game. So it was cool to have someone like Brian to give me some of my first work because, I got to learn the ropes from somebody who already knew what they were doing. So, yeah.
Oh, excellent stuff. When I spoke to Brian, because the one thing he was really worried about was the game scary enough? And I was like, I think you've hit the nail on the head with all, again, what we just mentioned about all the streamers and stuff. And I think you did an absolute fantastic job as Rebecca, because when I played through the campaign, and I'm thinking, oh, this poor girl, she's been through so much.
That was a lot.
Oh, okay, well, wonderful stuff. So this actually leads on to my next question. So Rebecca goes through such intense psychological moments. How did you prepare to capture that emotion?
Oh my gosh. So the fun thing was, so we didn't do any live directed sessions like a lot of my stuff is now. So a lot of it I worked on by myself, usually in the evening after I was done with a whole bunch of other stuff, and I would sit down and just be like, okay, I'm gonna put myself in this horror world. And it was actually really nice. It was very cathartic. So it wasn't too much of a stretch to come into Mortuary Assistant after like a really long day and just come in with my current energy level and just feel like, I think a lot of the game is sort of wearing her down over time. And so I kind of just embraced that. And it was nice to get into those moments, but also the way that the work came in. I didn't really get a clear sense of what the story was going to be or what the situations or context even was sometimes. Sometimes I did, and then sometimes I didn't. So sometimes it would just be like, all right, I need 3 drinking sounds, and I need 10 jumping sounds, and I need this or that. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. And I'm trying to keep in mind, of course, okay, this is not your typical video game. I'm doing the jump, but also around a bunch of demons. So how do I do that? It was a lot of fun actually playing around with those. So I didn't have like a consistent storyline or anything like that to go back to. So it actually kind of worked out in the way that the game was even developed and everything. So, a lot of it was procedurally generated scares. And I think that's what keeps people coming back too, is the replayability of the game, right? And so in my performance, all I had to do was really figure out, okay, I need to give a performance that's going to work in the maximum number of situations and still be like emotionally true. So that was kind of the work that I had to consider getting into some of these without the context,
Okay.
but it was a lot of fun.
I can definitely tell because when I played the game and I was going, I think I'd been like in the office to grab like a file or something, and then I went because Brian told me he loves corridors, so I was like, oh, that's where the idea came from, and I said I got dragged and I got pulled as Rebecca. And I went, oh, that's great.
Yeah. I think Brian has a really great sense of what scares people, and that's the person you want to be making video games and movies and a bunch of other stuff, you know. So yeah, absolutely the perfect person for the job.
Oh, cool. Amazing. So were there any particular scenes or lines that challenged you emotionally or creatively?
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, a couple. So I was talking about before how I didn't get a lot of context, right? So I'm trying to kind of intuit what Brian is wanting with what is like appropriate with what I want to do as well. And so a lot of it was trying to figure out, okay, there's going to be X number of endings, and I need to make sure that these are all going to remain consistent throughout. So I think what I ended up doing, because things came in sort of piecemeal, is I created Rebecca as a character first, and, you know, included her lore and her backstory, which I had a lot of parallels in my own life too. So it was very easy for me to get into character for her. And I decided that a lot of her qualities about being, you know, vulnerable but resilient, and a lot of those things were things that I had in myself that I just wanted to bring out in her, as someone on the other side of change, right? So yeah, it was a lot of fun getting into her. So that was like the more technical consideration. And then emotionally, it was actually kind of difficult because there were parallels with my own life. Things like I had lost my father about 10 years before I started working on Mortuary Assistant. So it's around that big anniversary that I had to contend with saying goodbye to a father character in the game at the same time. And so actually what's funny is a lot of the emotionality that you hear in those lines with her and her father are just me just kind of like imagining my own father and saying goodbye and like what that would be like. And then I think the cherry on top on that is that the person who plays my father, it's Matt Curtis, and he's a friend of mine, and we didn't even know we were in the same project.
Oh,
for
wow.
the longest time. We had no idea. And then, you know, like, because he's a friend of mine, I've talked to him about my father and how connected I felt with the game, and not knowing that we were working on the same game. So I said, who you play? And he said, I think I play your dad. And I was like, what? So it was just this full circle moment. And I think like all of that emotion came back into those endings in particular that are my favorite, but they were also the hardest to get through.
I can only but imagine, because I know when I played it, obviously I wasn't familiar with this. I went in completely blind with the story, and I had no idea what to. I'd seen the mimic sort of like up against the wall and stuff, and like Rebecca's grandma and stuff. But then like the part where Rebecca's like on the floor, and then the dad sort of just, you know, bye sort of thing, and I was like, oh no, that's just really awkward. Oh.
And it kind of impact of that scene.
I know, because Brian was saying about like when he had seen like the streamers' reactions and stuff, you know, like people, you know, just were getting like all emotional and they just weren't expecting it. Other people were sort of just like, oh no, kind of thing. But I think Matt did a fantastic job as well as portraying your dad in the game. But that kind of ties on to my next question, because the next question is, Rebecca's reactions feel so raw and real, as you just explained. So did you record those moments in a specific way to stay in the zone? I know if that were me, I just burst out crying, because some of those lines are pretty emotional. Bless.
Yes, I basically just did that. I just went, you know what? I'm just going to let it flow. You know, I'm just going to let out what I actually feel into it. And what's funny is I've heard a couple people, like streamers, like, that's such fake crying. And I'm like, actually, it's not.
It's all real.
It's real. But I think that's what's beautiful, especially about indie games and stuff where you can take risks. You can do like emotionally impactful scenes like that, and yes, bigger games do it too, but to be capable of that in a one-man project is just insane. So I don't know, man. I think that's art, right? So I'm glad it was felt. I really am. Aside from the jump scares, which are also a ton of fun, I'm also glad that there was something underneath that to dig into. Also, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah. So I have to ask a question. What was your favourite jump scare in the game? So for me, it's definitely in that mimic bloke.
Yes, it's definitely the mimic. I think actually the thing that got me was the thing that Brian was talking about, maybe, which is being pulled through backwards through the corridor. And I think it was in the trailer, the scene where I think it's the woman in white or something like that comes up through the ground. I have had dreams like that, and I was like, how did you know? How did you know that I have dreamt that? So that's what got me, was being pulled back through that corridor. I was like, no, no. And then, of course, the POV on purpose, right? Makes it so much worse. Yeah, I loved it.
I'll tell you how we might be able to see it. It'd be like Freddy Krueger, like the Dream Master. You never know. Brian's got a second hobby.
Exactly. Yeah, I knew it.
Cool. So the next section is horror experience and recording process. So obviously you did kind of explain that this is sort of like your first like proper gig. So aside from this question, so what are some of your favorite horror games?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I grew up playing all of the Resident Evil games for sure.
Nice.
I'm of the era also where I played like what is this old? It's this old like PS1 game. I feel like it was called Nightmare Creatures that I just like disappeared into at one time. Changed me forever. And then yeah, I've consistently played every Resident Evil game. What else? Oh God, Alan Wake. Alan Wake wrecked me. Like completely, just because I hadn't really seen such an effective play on being scared of the dark, which is a big thing for me.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, this game, no.
I have to admit though that clicker that he's got, because you know, like when you're in the street level and you meet Alex Casey and you're having to go and collect like a light from like a street lamp or a light from like the car, and I'm thinking, I haven't got anywhere else to get a light from. How is this going to work?
We're like, don't worry about the technical aspects of it.
Yeah, that's such a great game. I have to admit, like the bosses in that, is it Nightingale and the other bloke, completely got me, and it took me so many tries. And the lady with Saga in the water, that was difficult.
Yeah.
Definitely difficult. Oh, cool. So the next question I have here, so we did touch on this briefly. So how was the recording process? Did you work with visuals or mostly go off of script and direction? I know you said you didn't really get a lot come through, but did you sort of see any pictures of Rebecca or anything? Or
no, I saw nothing. And I wonder if that was better, you know? Sometimes, you know, even still now on other games I work on, I never see my characters. I don't know what they're going to look like. But in this case, yeah, we got very little. We got some basic context for the scene, and then just a series of lines. And then what is cool is that for me, one of my things that I love is for me script analysis, which is trying to figure out where in the game is this going to go, and how should I do it based on that. I don't really care so much about flexing my acting muscles so much as it making sense in the game, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of it was figuring that out, like, okay, where is this going to be used? And the only time that Brian ever really asked for like adjustments on any of my lines were when it was, oh, I forgot to tell you, this is actually like a more intense scene, or so we need to do something different. But yeah, basically we just went back and forth in email, and he was like, here's some lines, do those. I sent them back, he gave me adjustments, and then we kept going. But as I said, yeah, I kind of created Rebecca the character that I could come back to, and just whatever happened to her, that's how I'm going to react as I get the lines. There were like a year, I think, of nothing for a while, and then we would get like 1 or 2 scripts, and then 6 months, and then another script. So I had to kind of remember who Rebecca was each time and revisit that. But I'm glad I did.
I saw a picture of her online, so I remember streaming it, and my community members went, oh, she's so pretty. I was like, I know. Such a
I
wonderful
thought
character.
so too when I saw her. I was like, wow, okay.
Oh, cool. So were there any particular moments during recording that gave you chills or struck with you afterwards? So I know when I played it, and I was saying to Brian, I said your range of bodies. So we had this guy who was like 70, but I swear he looked like he was 40. And Brian goes, I think I may have got that age range wrong. If he looked 70 but looked good, he goes, wow. and then I had like Rebecca's grandma pop up at the window, she's going, Rebecca, and then she said something. She went to demonic voice. I was like, oh, what did you just say?
Yeah, those moments stuck with me too. Specifically the grandma at the window scene. I think specifically too because the way that it comes out is you hear it sort of on the right side and you hear it muffled through the window. And then I've seen a couple playthroughs where people open the window and you hear like the rain outside and you can hear her differently through that. It's amazing. Yeah, those stuck with me. I think one of the coolest moments that I really appreciated when it all came together that I didn't have when I recorded it was actually what was one of my favorite moments in the game, which is one of Rebecca's first reactions to something weird happening, which is just like in the dark room, the lights go out and the body's on the table and the lightning strikes, right? And the body like jumps up and then she says, nope, absolutely not. I'm getting out of here. And like she takes off. I remember laughing about it with Brian and like, that was the most human response to something like that happening. Please allow me to give me that. Yeah, I went full bore into that moment because I was like, finally, somebody who has a human reaction to something like that. So that's one of my favorite things that stuck out to me was just the the unintentional comedy of that was gold.
Yeah, I have to admit, like the lights going on and off, like the woman, was it lady in the car? She kept just standing there, she like flicking the light switch, and I was like, you can forget that, love, that ain't happening. Because the other one that I said to Brian about like the bodies and stuff, he said, do you have the seasonal? Sometimes it's thrown like seasonal. So if it's Halloween, it'd be like like the Mimic or whatever. Or if it's like no, he said the Mimic had wings for Valentine's Day, and then there's Santa Claus as well, and Nosferatu. And he goes, you played any of those yet? I'm like, Santa Claus might scare the living crap out of me now, but yeah.
That's amazing. I have to see that now. I did not know that was a thing.
Neither did I, but because we were talking about the film as well, and he said that the crew got given like I Heart the Mimic and stuff. He said, oh, the Mimic is like just sent to gold. He goes for everybody because everybody loves the Mimic. I said, well, we turn around and give me a funny smile and try to adapt me.
Exactly. What a jerk. No, it's such a great character. And it's I actually, somebody gifted me the it's a magazine, I think, with the Mimic on the front cover of it.
Oh, wow.
And so I have it in my studio now because it's great. I love it.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Okay, cool. So we did touch on this briefly. So Rebecca is such a grounded character in a chaotic world. How did you balance fear, resilience, and vulnerability in your voice work? So obviously, we explained like the emotional side. Where you got your happy side, and then you've got like your sad side, but you're changing sort of constantly, kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me was to show her conflict, and the fact that I think for her it's very much questioning: am I going crazy? Is this real? Are my demons literal and figurative out to get me? Right. So I tried to keep like all of her conflict in there through like inconsistency, and then for when I went back and I played her, I think the other consideration for me was I never wanted Rebecca to speak louder than any of the scares or any of the other moments that were happening with any of the other characters. So I tried to really pull back as much as I could into like a more reserved, contemplative space, just to make sure that like I wasn't stepping on anything that would be impactful emotionally or for the scares themselves,
Yeah.
So I think it was cool of Brian to let me do like a grounded performance, and knowing full well that like, yeah, we want to make sure that I'm putting emotionality into it, but not too much. You know, it's a sweet spot. And for my, like, one of my first projects, I did all right, I think.
I think he did fantastic. And it's funny because I said to Brian, I said, because obviously he was really, really worried. He said, I was going to push the button and I was holding back. And I said, and you're glad you pushed it? I said, because the game is super successful. I said, you know, people play it on YouTube, people play it on Twitch or Kick. I said, lots of streamers, I said, even men are doing jump scares. I said, and that makes me chuckle. I'm not a sadist, but it made me chuckle. I said, so you must be super pleased with the project. He said, well, I'm just hoping that, you know, Paranormal Activity has, because that's his next project, that's what he's working on, has the same effect. And I said, but the great thing about the Mortuary, like we touched on earlier, with the Mortuary, has such replayability. You know, you can go back and play as, you know, find Santa or find Nosferatu or Valentine's Day, be the mimic with wings, you know. So, yeah.
Exactly. I think that's fantastic. That's how you know that it's a gift to the industry, I think, you know. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful as well, because I said to Brian about like all the artwork and stuff, and we were talking about the process, and I said, oh, how did you do the characters for Rebecca and Raymond? Because obviously in the story, you know, Rebecca's like an employee and Raymond's like their boss kind of thing. But then like further down the line, you know, things start to get a bit funky. So how did you find working with Adam? Did you sort of send lines over to each other, or did you just see like the end product where like the lines were sort of just put in one after the other kind of thing?
That's funny. Well, it's funny because the voice acting world isn't that big, right? So I mentioned a friend of mine being on there. Adam is also a friend of mine. And you know, we're not super close, but like, I think, I don't know, he's always been one of those people. When I first started voice acting, he welcomed me in. He was very kind to me, and supportive. And I would just sort of crack jokes with him a lot and stuff. And that's kind of how we knew each other. And I always felt like, you know, we understood each other just naturally. And so when we found out that we were both on this project, I think he put me in contact with Brian, and he was kind of saying like, hey, I got somebody who could definitely do the subtle acting that you're looking for. And I feel like if you listen to Adam's voice, it's very deep, it's very severe, but he's like the nicest dude. And I think that one of the reasons we understood each other was that I immediately was like, I know you sound mean, but I know you're really nice.
Real softy.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, shut up. But yeah. But I was kind of like, I see you. And so I think like having that understanding of who Adam is as well as a kind person was easier for me to find that kindness in Raymond as the character as well, and realize that, okay, well, you did kind of lock me in here, which I'm not happy about. But we're here now, and like, you know, whatever your reasons were, I'm still mad at you, but I understand, you know. That's kind of where we're coming from. So I think it's cool to have that as well, like that understanding, and go, okay, I think Raymond had his own reasons for doing what he did, understandable or no. And I think that makes it really compelling when your characters have layers like that. Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, when I very first saw Raymond, I thought, we're going to be like the straight up sort of poker face boss. But then again, like we just touched on that, when I sort of played more into the game, I mean, to be fair, I've not played the last update with Valerie, I think the lady's name is. And Brian was telling me, I was like, oh, wow. He goes, so you definitely have to go back and play that particular one now. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who like to what they call like trophy, get all the trophies and stuff and get all like the different endings. Do you have like fans come up to you and be like, I played the game and this is what I got?
I've had a few people come to me actually after seeing some of the good endings. I feel like a lot of folks, like, we tumble into the bad endings, but then when they get to the good endings, they're like, oh, that was actually really nice. And so I'll have people come to me about some of the endings for sure, or especially the ones involving the dad or whatever, and be like, that was messed up. And I'm like, I know.
Oh, no. I think it's also nice as well, because Rebecca gets a bit of closure, doesn't she? You know, so things don't always end. It's like, you know, if you watch like a Nightmare, we all know there's going to be a bad end. There is never a happy ending in those films. But the good thing about this game is that there is, and most horror games, you know, like Until Dawn or things like that, don't ever have a happy ending. But this one does.
That's true, and I really love that about this too, is how many different endings you can have. And yeah, I just wish, I hope that there's more, in the universe for sure. More Raymond, more Rebecca, or whoever, to come and tell those stories, because I think there's so much potential for the universe. So yeah.
That was actually going to lead into my next question, because it was going to be, if the Mortuary Assistant expanded into a sequel or a DLC, would you love to return as Rebecca? There we go.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you can count me in. I love playing Rebecca. I think that there's room for Rebecca to change as a character as well, over time. And then I think we all want more Raymond time. So I think there's lots of room for it. So if there ever is any more DLC or sequels, absolutely, I will be in.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. So I have to ask the question, if you could have any horror character appear, or we have to ask Brian nicely, which horror character would you want as a mortuary body?
Which horror character would I want as a mortuary, as a body, like on the gurney?
Yeah.
Well, I'm biased. Okay, so I would, if I could have any IP, the xenomorph from Alien.
Yes, that's a very good point. But you'd have to be careful because of the acid.
That's true. You have to take precautions, but I would love to see it, and not just because I'm in the universe, but because I love the Aliens universe too. So yes, that would be my choice.
Oh, fantastic stuff. And the very last question is, can you give us a live reading of one of Rebecca's most intense or iconic lines that stuck with you throughout the game? I bet you got many.
Oh gosh. You know what? I'll do her reaction scene. Let me see. Okay. I'll do her reaction. And I think it was, nope, new job. I'm getting out of here. New career path. Beat this. I don't know if I can curse on this show.
Yeah, everybody, even Brian did as well.
Okay, great. Okay, well, just in case. Anyway, that's her reaction, and I feel like that's the one people come to me the most with. So.
Oh, fantastic stuff! I love the line readings. I mean, I'm going to go back and I'm going to replay it. I'm actually away the weekend, but when I come back next week, I said to Brad, I said, I've got to jump back on it. He goes, great, yeah. That's good.
Absolutely. There's more. I'm sure there's more DLC coming, and he's done a fantastic job with it. So I'm always here to celebrate his work, and yeah, I can't wait to see more.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the channel today, Melissa, chatting all things the Mortuary Assistant and Rebecca Owens. And we wish you all the best of luck in your next venture.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much. You take care. And I'm pretty sure if you are going to be in the sequel, we'll have to talk to Brian really nicely. Then we can interview in the future.
Absolutely. You got it.
Lovely. Thank you. Take care. Bye.